Good morning on day 7. Interesting little shelter. I think I might even use it. I've already taken shelter. It's just started to rain as I set off. So what looked like a grey day is turning into a grey day from the rain point of view. Fortunately the rain didn't last long and I was able to get onto the trail straight away. So a kiln here for charcoal making. So a little visitor area on the walk up. And as I looked around, there's the pilgrim stamp. Even a little weather site. I've taken a chance and taken the waterproof off. The sky in front of me is dark. Behind me there's some good blue patches, so I'm just hoping that I'm kind of on the borderline and the rain holds off. The trail that takes you up to Aber Falls is really good, but when you do get to see the falls, make sure you look at the upper parts because these will disappear as you actually get closer to the falls. Crossing the bridge and then a short climb brings you up to the base of the waterfall. They're an impressive sight with plenty of water considering the limited amount of rain we've had. The trail now takes a right. It leads you across the top of the valley towards another waterfall. This one's not quite as big as Aber Falls, but it's still an impressive sight as it cascades down the valley. Here you take another right. You've now turned 180 degrees and are still climbing, but you're walking back in essentially the direction you came from earlier in the day. However, you're going to be a little bit higher up. While you're kind of climbing up is make sure you're looking back into the valley. You know, looking at the waterfalls, the valley as a whole, it is very, very beautiful. The waterfalls can be seen in their full splendour from this viewpoint, but the trail's still going up and you cross a whole set of power lines on the way. A last look at the falls, but as you can see below, that's the trail you walked up earlier. It's quite a long way down from here. The trail now turns back and looks towards the sea. You pass a university training site on the way. The view now changes and you get a much more extensive point of view. The trail now moves into a completely new section. It's going to take you along the hillside at quite a high altitude, but you're going to get some fantastic views of Anglesey along the way. It was certainly one of the most significant sections of the day, and I was so glad that the sun had actually come out. It was really nice. Penrhyn Castle is one of the other sites you'll see, and Bangor's actually behind it. Unfortunately, the route doesn't go directly there. It now moves on to a section of tarmac. This is not actually that long, as the path now turns right. Ahead is a twisty section of trails that's going to take you through basically fields, buildings and a whole number of other areas as you make your way down to a different road. The path is a little bit overgrown here, but passable. There are glimpses of the mountains through the trees as you're essentially moving yourselves down through this lovely landscape towards the river. Trying to zoom in. The bigger one in the cloud is a Llyn Peninsula, and these are kind of a range, kind of what some people call the glidders. A view of Penrhyn Castle, but this I'm looking from a completely different side. The trail moves down through some buildings and across a number of fields. You can hear the river, but you haven't been able to see it yet. It's not until you get to the bridge that you cross that you actually get a full view of the Afon Ogwen, or the River Ogwen as it's actually known. The trail now heads under the A55. Remember that road? There's a view back at the trail I've been coming along. Essentially it's close to all those power lines in the distance. The road that I'm now actually walking on is an old section of the A5, which is a road from London to Holyhead but is no longer used. The path now moves past a railway tunnel ventilation tower as it progresses towards Bangor. I'm approaching the outskirts of Bangor. I'm kind of on the outskirts of a small industrial estate. reasonably sized industrial estate actually. So it kind of walks along the outside of it, and I believe it walks through it down to one of the old railway lines that no longer exists and is now a footpath. This path runs for a mile or so along a river valley through the trees until you get to this underpass with some inspirational artwork. You pass this really old bridge as you complete the final section, which is actually taking you down to Penrhyn Bay, which was one of the docks for Bangor. The trail now turns to the final section, which is the walk up Bangor High Street. There's a view of the University Arts building, which is locally known as Hogwarts. The shops are the final hurdle before you reach Bangor Cathedral. The land the cathedral's built on goes back to St Daniel in the 6th century, who had a monastery on this site. The oldest part of the current building is the 12th century, although it's undergone plenty of additions, modifications and restorations over the years. Well, that's it for day 7, and it's been an interesting day. Plenty of views, plenty of good scenery, and lots of kind of walking around different places, lots of changes, and I'm in Bangor now. So kind of, I would say that's past halfway for the Pilgrims Way, and kind of looking forward to the next half. Unfortunately no stamp today, cathedral's closed, so I wasn't able to get one. So I'm going to see if I can try and get one at the beginning of day 8, so I'll see you then.